Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. I was on Facebook the other day when I saw a post that one of my Facebook friends made saying that they found it something strange about men who clamor for a woman leader. And as I saw that post, it took me back to the video that the brother of Logic and Common Sense made about Kamala Harris and the kind of males that are a part of her campaign. Now, on looking at the pictures of those males that the brother of Logic and Common Sense presented in his masterpiece, I saw how soft and weak these guys looked. And these guys who clamor for female leadership are basically beta males, like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when it comes to men who clamor for female leadership, these are some of the most dangerous men you could ever encounter in your life. Because while these males go out here and clamor for a woman to lead them on the surface, subconsciously, a lot of these kind of males are seething and boiling in anger, and they're seething and boiling in anger because on a subconscious level, they know that the order of the God has created has been completely reversed, and as they know that the order of God has been completely reversed, this is what creates the foundation for their anger that they have. Now, when it comes to these men who clamor for female leadership, most of these males primarily have been indoctrinated into our gynocentric and feminist culture over the last 60 years, and as they've been indoctrinated into our gynocentric and feminist culture that was created by the rich elite, men like the Rockefellers, who basically wanted to give women economic power because they wanted to be able to control society, because what they wanted to do was give the woman economic power because they thought they would be able to not only control the woman, but control the children as well, because once the mother was outside of the home and outside of submitting to the authority of the man under God's order, that woman would basically be the first teacher of consumerism to their children, and that would be reinforced by the media that was presented on television and now the internet and now social media. And as a result, this is how we got these socially engineered, soft, kinder, gentler, softer males as related to the last 3 generations of men, as we've gone from the baby boomers to Gen X to the millennials, and I have to also include Gen Z. What we've gotten is this kinder, gentler, softer male, and this kinder, gentler, softer male basically is the kind of man who looks to follow women's leadership, because this is how he has been socially conditioned to believe how the hierarchy of power works. This is how he has been raised to believe the social hierarchy of power works, because the wealthy basically wanted to put the woman in the man's leadership role, and those women who were indoctrinated into feminism wanted that leadership role that men had, because men, when it came to feminists covet the leadership role that men have, and as those women covet that leadership role, what the wealthy want to do is basically put the woman in that leadership role, and as they put the woman in the leadership role that God established for men, they look to create their own order. Unfortunately, as they look to create their own order, what they do is create chaos, because once you step out of God's order, that's when your society is going to go into a major state of decline. And it's going to go in a major state of decline because you now are having men looking to go their own way and wander in the wilderness as related to the wealthy, in not looking to be responsible stewards, but looking to be gods in and of themselves. And as these false gods look to create their own order on a foundation of women. They look to create a structure based on a foundation of the weaker vessel. And as they look to build that foundation on the weaker vessel, what they don't understand is that that woman is not designed to be able to handle the role of stewardship that God has given men. And because that woman wasn't designed to handle the role of stewardship that God has given men, this woman is not capable of taking on that leadership role that God established for men. But you'll have these rich people at the top believing that this woman can be the one they can control. Unfortunately, this is where the sand slips through their fingers as related to maintaining control of their society. Because when you take the man out of his role and put him in a role of submission, when you put that man in a role of submission, that man doesn't really have a role. And as he doesn't have a role, he feels emasculated because the woman is the one who has all the power. And those guys who basically go out here and look to pander to women, they basically are coming from this position of weakness, a position of weakness where, again, subconsciously, these men are seething with a lot of anger, because they see this woman with all the power. And as they see this woman with all the power, what these men do is, again, are sitting there simmering and boiling in anger, because when it comes to beta males basically, again, they'll put on a face where they're looking to submit to the woman, but deep down they have a lot of anger inside of them. They have a lot of anger inside of them because they feel like they can't take their power as a man. And because they feel like they can't take their power as a man, what happens to these men is they sit there and, again, seethe in anger, and eventually what happens to that man is eventually he just gets tired of feeling completely emasculated and feeling powerless about his situation. And as he feels powerless about his situation, eventually this turns into a powder keg where eventually that man winds up exploding in a rage. And when that man explodes in rage, he winds up participating in the complete destruction of whatever he's involved with, whether it be doing things from going to a screaming fit to going to the extremes of things like murder. This is what happens with beta males who go and look to submit to women. And again, the wealthy think that they can build a structure on the weaker vessel, but without a place for men in society, when those men have no place in society because you've elevated all the women and given women power, those men become atomic bombs. And that's what people don't really understand. Again, you cannot, like the Bible says, God is not mocked. As a man sows, he shall reap. And when it comes to the wealthy, they basically may be reaping what they sowed, greater than what they sowed, later than what they sowed, because men without purpose, men without direction from God, these men basically, again, become a clear and present danger that nobody pays attention to, because women are caught up in their feelings about their power and power tripping, and the wealthy are caught up in looking to maintain their economic power structures and their political power structures, and they don't see how it can all be upheaved by beta males who don't know anything about being a man. And these people, again, looking to disrupt God's order, because, again, God made the man first, God made the man the head, and God made the man his steward, the one who has the direct connection to him. God made the man to be in a leadership role, and he made the man to want to, again, only follow the lead of his Father, and the Father in heaven, and the Son of God. These are the authorities as related to a man, and this is what a man wants to, again, follow naturally. Again, on a natural level, a man wants to follow the patriarchy that was established by God in looking to follow his Son, Jesus, and then follow God himself. And when a man is taken out of that order, that you get the only result you get is eventual chaos, because, again, a man who follows a woman basically is a weak man who is not respected by either men or women. He's not a man that anyone respects, in that when men don't respect him, because again, he basically is submitting to women and female authority, which is unnatural. And when it comes to women, they don't respect him because women are looking for a man to lead them. And when they see a beta male, again, following behind her, this is where those women start to express their natural frustration and their natural anger, because they feel like this man is weak. This man is not taking the power that God has given him, not taking on the role that God has established for him. And this is where that woman starts to get angry with that man. So, in addition to this man having all of this subconscious anger, the woman herself is feeling frustrated because this man is not taking charge, and not taking charge because he has been conditioned to be afraid of taking his power. And because he's been conditioned to be afraid of taking his power, this is what leads to the eventual eruption and explosion of rage, because all of that rage is based on this man being taught to be afraid of the power of this woman that the wealthy have given her. He has been taught to be afraid of that power that the feminists have been given by the wealthy. So this man, again, he's feeling powerless, he's feeling frustrated. And when you have an entire nation of multiple generations of men, and they start to feel emasculated and feel powerless, you have a 20 billion ton pack powder of TNT waiting to explode. And yes, we've gotten little pockets of eruptions with the violence we have seen, such as the crime and the mass shootings and things like drug addiction. But if we were to have a mass explosion, again, it would just basically destroy all of this civilization, and destroy all of the civilization because, again, men without purpose, men without direction from God, and without guidance from God in God's order, these beta males, again, they follow behind women, and while the women think they have power, they don't see how frustrated these men are, because they're placed in the role of a child, submitted to a woman in a maternal way, and in a way that she doesn't respect that man or his place in God's order, not respecting that man and his place in God's order. And the only guys, again, who follow behind these women are these beta males. But these beta males, again, while these women think these guys are harmless, these guys are, again, ticking time bombs that have become landmines due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And these landmines are all around a lot of women who don't understand you're dealing with a landmine. A landmine that can explode is not a matter of if it's going to explode, but a matter of when. Because again, the man who follows behind a woman is a weak man who feels frustrated about not having his power as a man, a weak man who feels like he cannot take his role as a leader and a head in a society that basically looks to favor women, a weak man who feels frustrated about not being able to achieve or accomplish anything in this life. And again, this weak man, again, wants to take his power and feels like if he can't take his power through legitimate means as related to being able to compete in that society, he will basically look to destroy the world around him. And that's why guys who look to follow behind women are some of the most dangerous men you will ever deal with. When it comes to the nice guys that you see in those pictures that I saw in the Brother of Logic and Common Sense videos as related to these soft milquetoast guys who were following behind Kamala Harris, again, these are the kind of guys who are more dangerous than a regular man, because a regular man, once he sees that he cannot take his leadership role, he will charge those women to the game and then continue to move on, because a man is looking for a woman and not a feminist, and again, it's incompatible with feminism. And that man, again, will want to be in a place where he can be a part of God's order as a leader. But that beta male, again, he will follow behind that woman, again, and that woman will think that, oh, I've got this guy behind me and everything is good. But that guy, again, winds up becoming a stick of dynamite that they're holding in their hands. And that stick of dynamite is lit and the fuse is getting shorter as long as that guy is out there. And they'll think, oh, this guy is supporting me. This guy is pandering to me. Everything is good. I'm getting my ego stroked. But they really have no respect for that man. And that's where we get the fuse again lit as further going faster down that dynamite, and eventually that's where that guy explodes, where he feels he has no power. And again, that's what happens when you have guys who follow the lead of women. Again, they want to create a covert contract hoping they will get some sort of power. If she gets power, they're hoping they can get some benefits as related to being parasites. But that whole covert contract is never fulfilled because that woman doesn't respect that man. And since she doesn't respect those men and she doesn't regard those men, that's where those men basically, again, wind up participating in, again, dysfunctional behaviors. Like I talk about in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. They have usually 3 responses. One is to go out here and basically go out here and try to establish dominance by making that woman pregnant and hoping to get power over her body. The other is to physically attack this woman because they feel powerless and emasculated, so they will lash out at that woman. And that's why I say we've got an atomic bomb situation. And the third is to basically cut off themselves from society and cut off all contact with those feminists because those women don't help meet their needs. And that's what a lot of men are doing, is basically cutting themselves off from society and leaving society to the beta males. But those beta males, again, they don't really build anything because they don't know how to lead themselves. And that's why your civilization goes into a major state of decline because, again, the men who are builders have no incentive to build because they're going to be attacked by the wealthy and the government in an effort to maintain their power. So those men have no incentive to participate in society, and the only ones who will participate are beta males who will side with feminist indoctrinated women. And again, neither one of them know how to build, and it's almost similar to what what the guy, I think his name was Mad Black 80, talked about as related to the movie The Lion King, which showed you what happens when beta males come in charge, because Scar was a beta male, and Scar basically turned the Pride Lands into a hellhole because he sided with the hyenas, and the hyenas didn't know how to build or maintain the society. No, the hyenas didn't know how to build or maintain the society, and once Mufasa wound up leaving, the women basically left, and I would say left with the men, and the only people left in that matriarchal society established by Scar and the beta male who basically was being run by the women who were the hyenas, basically ran the entire civilization straight into the ground. And another example of this is the black community basically went from being run by black men to being run by black women and wound up run straight into the ground because the elite, again, didn't want to compete with black men. And this basically ran the entire society straight into the ground. And again, when you have men who follow women are not leaders. Men who follow women are not innovators. Men who follow women are not creators. They're not builders. No, the only thing that these guys chase is social currency and what's inside of the skid mark jockey thongs of those women. And those men, again, are not fit for society because they're not fit for leadership. They're not fit for stewardship. They don't want to take responsibility and be accountable to God. No, these men basically see a woman as God, but don't see the elite men who are false gods controlling those women, because those women basically get their power from rich men, and they don't see the whole power dynamics. And again, the only way they're following these women is because they have no understanding of their role as men in God's order. These men have no understanding of their role in God's order, and since they have no understanding of their role in God's order, they follow behind a woman, and they follow behind a woman not seeing that the end result of following women is chaos. And that was shown to us in the Bible with Jezebel, who basically took over the kingdom of Israel and dominated it over Ahab. Now, Ahab was another beta male who looked to submit to his wife and not serve God. He didn't look to serve the Lord and be accountable to the Lord. No, he submitted to his wife, Jezebel. And as he submitted to Jezebel, what Jezebel did was take the kingdom of Israel away from God and God's order and look to serve false gods. She basically served a lot of false idols like the modern woman does, as related to the looking up to the rich man. And again, as they served that fault, as she took the kingdom off the road to the false gods, eventually the emasculated men like the eunuchs and other men got tired of Jezebel, and they eventually led to her losing power as they exploded in a rage, and Ahab wound up getting killed by an archer. He was trying to hide as related to things. He put on another man's clothes and looked to hide and looked to escape God's wrath. And he couldn't escape God's wrath because you cannot escape the Most High God. No, he thought he could escape by putting on another man's clothes, but an archer took his life, and Jezebel wound up being thrown off a balcony by frustrated, emasculated eunuchs. And that basically shows what happens when a man follows female leadership in the Bible. But sadly, these godless rich men, again, think that they are gods, and sadly, they're going to wind up reaping what they sowed, just like their ancestors did in the Bible, because again, God is not mocked, and as a man sows, shall he reap. And what these women who follow men do is wind up reaping, sowing chaos, and then they wind up reaping that same chaos because they look to mock God. But you can't mock God and not have to deal with the consequences, because again, as God has said, God is not mocked. As a man sows, shall he reap. And sadly, those men who follow women, when they reap what they sow, later than what they sow, greater than what they sow, and sadly, they bring a nation into ruin. They bring a nation into ruin because once you step outside of the order of God, you are on a road to judgment, and you're on a road to judgment because you don't want to serve the Lord. And that's what happens to those who look to follow women. They look to follow women thinking that they're going to get sexual access or be validated in a covert contract. But what happens is that contract never gets fulfilled. And once it doesn't get fulfilled, that's the end of everything as these men erupt in the rage that's inside of them. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the dysfunctional behavior of this whole paradigm of dysfunction, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, which explains how our society has become a society not of women, but of feminists, and how those feminists came to power. You can also pick up The Man Crisis, which shows you how these males were socially engineered to become beta males. And you can also pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, to learn how this paradigm of failure basically destroyed the black community. All three of these books are available at online booksellers like Amazon.com, Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about society and civilization, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today.
Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many black women can't find a husband and why 70% of black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today.
Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.